Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to another story time. This story happened about a year ago, and I just wrote it on a whim, but decided why not, let's share it. It's a bit more personal. It's about my friends, the homies, the bros, the gang, you already know. It's a fun story. It's something more quick, and happened kind of out of like the psychotic exploration, but still something I wanted to share. I think you guys will enjoy it, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. So things have been pretty wild overall, in terms of how life can change. But one thing that has stuck around, and I think that will always be around, is some of the homies. Some of my very good friends. Time tests this again and again, and I see more clearly who's meant to be around, and who's meant to go do something else in the meantime. But basically for today's story, we have some classic peeps popping up, but also some guys I've yet to mention in a story. Basically this is all who was there this night. We got a regular with Marcel, he's been in a ton of stories, but also two classic friends with Michael, who's come up a handful of times now, and also our friend Stan, who I think I only brought up in the story of Michael's graduation so far, but expected to be in many more to come. But these guys are really good friends of mine. We've had tons of experiences, and they've been in my life for a good while now. And the same goes for the other two. These two include the homie Ashton, who you'll just see, he was pretty much my second drug partner for a portion of time. And we did interview him in an episode of Substances Explained for Xanax. And then the homie Andre, who I met back in high school the same time I met Michael. But I get along with these guys really well, and they're pretty much certified homies. Homies I see being here for the long run. But let's get into this story and lay down some context for this night. And I'll just say now, this night isn't anything super crazy or super eventful. Like nothing wild goes down, some goofy stuff does happen, but this was a night of rejuvenation and realization of where I was. It was kinda eye-opening, and there was a push for me to get this night down in a story. So let's start off by saying that these guys have been wanting to see me, because I had recently come back to town after not being around for about a year. I would hang with these guys regularly, so it was only natural for us to get together at some point. Michael and Andre kept hitting me up trying to find a time that would work, which was a bit difficult considering they worked the night shift and I work early on. But a Friday in June came around where things would work out. Ashton had been hitting me up fairly decently ever since I got back. I had seen him a few times already and knew he needed to see his friends again. Ashton had been going through some shit, which we'll get into a little bit because it would actually play a big role in the energy this night. But these guys were hitting me up and I had been just busy a lot recently. Taking care of moving, getting a new car, trying to keep up with the channel, and also doing landscaping on the side. So managing all of that, I only got so much free time to see the homies and just kick back. But this Friday comes around, and we're looking forward to things. Ashton had been wanting to see me lately, because he was going through some rough patches. Basically this guy was living in his car for almost a year straight. Which I don't want to get into the specifics of why, because it is personal, but basically he felt pressured out by his family and core values. Dude owes some debt, has been dealing with the court system for years, has some mental and physical health issues at times, and he can be a pretty bad drinker. You can paint the picture. But the thing is, you can only stay in your car for so long as the weather is solid. But just this week we had a huge heat wave where things got over 100 degrees. And I'm from Illinois, which is known for being rather humid, so it just made things that much worse for him. Just try to imagine sleeping in a car where you're just sweating balls the whole time. Because of this, Ashton had to do something. The car just wasn't doable. He had been doing it with this girl at the time, and she finally split, which caused him to reach out to some family to try and work something out. And also with the raising gas prices we had at the time, plus the wear and tear on his car, the fact he had no job, it was only a matter of time before things came to this. Now, he didn't want to go back to his grandma's because she was part of the reason he started living in his car in the first place. So he went to his dad, who happened to be around at the time. This dude was telling me that basically things were chill for like 3 days or so, and then he just started going nuts. All because he got his prescription for hydros refilled. And he was drinking too, I believe, on top of this. Regularly at first, but heavily with the hydros. Basically, he gets into this mess and starts treating Ashton like garbage. to where he couldn't be there anymore basically, and couldn't wait to do something else. Like, I remember when Ashton pulled up, he showed me some of the most ridiculous texts from his dad. They made absolutely no sense. Like, he would start writing a sentence and then start another one halfway through, and you'd have no clue what he was trying to say. Basically, he was super fucked up. Ashton also showed me a picture of the counter when his dad tried to make a sandwich, which this man got mustard and ketchup all over the counter, left the bread open and his plate still out, and there was a pitchfork stuck through the loaf of bread. I kid you not, it was like some wacky cartoon or something. And Ashton said he basically got pissed off and just left a stupid ass mess. It was absolutely ridiculous to say the least. But that's basically what was going on with Ashton. It was a really stressful situation to say the least. Not only because his dad was messed up and angry, but because he had no place to stay and he would probably have to go back to his grandma's. But anyways, this guy Ashton ends up pulling up and he was already drinking a beer. I was about ready to go smoke and hang out, which Michael was ready at the time too. Ashton hops in my whip because we gotta go grab Michael and also pick up some bud. I didn't really want Ashton driving too much, obviously because of the alcohol, but also because Buddy didn't have insurance or a sticker at the time either. We ride over and grab Michael, which I haven't seen Michael in a while at this point. We had just been so busy with everything, and I moved and all this, so it was kinda a long time. But we catch up and chat, and then we go slide to the other side of town to meet up with the plug. He hooks it up with a fire pack and some fire wax, and we were pretty much set for the night on that end. It was pretty stupid though, because I blew the stop sign on the way back, just when I was talking to these guys, but nobody saw that shit really. But we head back to my place, and I rolled up some bud. And Ashton was down to go to his regular spot, and that was the local Jewel-Osco. This dude pretty much talked to the workers there, and they knew his ass would stay there near the back of the Jewel in his car. And me and him had smoked there a few times before just fine, so it was actually pretty chill. Michael was hitting up Andre and trying to see where he was at. And I remember he also brought up Stan and Marcel, seeing what they were up to. Marcel I knew was still working, but would probably be down to hang once he was off. Stan on the other hand, I just said fuck it, let's give him a call and see what he's doing. I had just seen him like a week or so ago, and if he wasn't traveling like that like he normally does, he would be down. Stan's been all over the country and goes pretty regularly with his job. But he answers, we tell him where we're posted up, and he says he's on the way. Same thing with Andre. Stan happened to pull up rather quickly, and hopped in Ashton's whip in the back with Michael. We were just finishing up one at the time, which Michael didn't smoke. But anyways, we head back to my place real quick, because Ashton was asking me if we can get some alcohol, which I told him I had some sitting at the crib that I haven't touched in a while. It was a bottle of Jim Beam bourbon I believe, which not Ashton's first choice, but alcohol is alcohol at the end of the day. So I run in, grab him the bottle, and come back to the whip. And we go back to the spot at Jewel. Once we get there, Stan and I both roll up, and we decide to stand outside, because it was nice as fuck at the time. Stan said it was like California weather, which is rare here in Illinois. So we were just posted up in the back of Jewel and sparked these blunts. Ashton is drinking some beer, which we also set the bottle of Jim Beam on the ground. Ashton took a couple shots, and then the rest of us also decided to join in, taking one. Which everyone understood what Ashton was going through, and we were mainly focused on making this a good night and a good time. But we smoked and chatted up a lot. Eventually Andre pulls up, and we got a squad. I remember Stan talking about the time he almost got hit by this helicopter. Apparently he was on this roof somewhere, and he seen this drone fly by. He went by the edge to see where it came from, and out of nowhere a helicopter comes up. Like, just ridiculous. He said he had to stumble back and all this shit. And all the while we're talking, Ashton keeps on drinking and drinking. Cause I know him. He doesn't want to face the current reality going on, and just wanted to get wasted. I think one of the workers popped out in the back at some point, but they just went back inside. Then Andre pointed out a crown that was spray painted on the wall. None of us saw it, and he had to walk up to it. Which at that point, I brought up the suggestion of going for a walk, as we were close to a bike trail. Everyone was down, and I remember Ashton hid the bottle in some nearby bushes, just in case some cops came by for whatever reason, which of course they wouldn't. But we start walking along the street and continue chatting it up. Eventually we get on the trail, and here's the thing with Ashton. He likes to make music, and it's mainly heavy punk stuff, where there's a bunch of loud ass yelling and whatnot. All of a sudden, Buddy played out one of those vocals, which I'll try my best to mimic here. Basically he does that shit loud as fuck. And here's the thing. We picked to walk the side of the trail where there's a bunch of houses and stuff, like backyards and whatnot. So Stan just comes out laughing, dying, and says, "Hey bro, let's find some people and do that shit." Michael also says to do it, and we start walking down the trail to find some people. We stumbled upon some people who were having a campfire in their backyard. Some older people, and these guys gave no fucks at all. Stan was like, "Yo, do it now bro, do it now." So this guy Ashton just lets loose, and it basically sounds like there's an animal dying or someone getting murdered. Andre and I were getting ready to book it, because I wasn't about to deal with some random people running up on us. So I didn't really see it, but Stan and Michael watched, and apparently these people got scared shitless. And Ashton was doing that shit for like a good 30 seconds or so before we were all telling him to come back. We kinda just drug away a little, and were dying of laughter. It was just so ridiculous and out of nowhere. But we decided to go to the other side of the trail where there isn't any houses. And it was a really nice vibe actually. The sky had some stars out, and it was super comfortable outside. But Ashton starts to say he's a bit tired of walking, which Buddy was drunk at this point. Understandable. But the rest of us wanted to keep going a bit more, so we just slowed down. But this guy Ashton tells me he wants to cut through the field to get to the street, so it's an easier walk back. In this field we were in, the grass was like 7 feet tall. So this guy just looks absolutely ridiculous trying to go through this. Sam was like, "Bro, where are you going?" And Ashton realizes he can't get through this shit easy and comes back. Which at this point, we decided to turn back and go back to Jewel, mainly because of the time. We called and talked to Marcel, and he said we can come kick it at his place once he got off. But here's the thing, on the way back, we saw the part where Ashton yelled at, and it looked like police holding flashlights. It just wasn't like any camera light, that's for sure. So those people had probably called out 12 and they were searching around. So we just get off the trail as fast as possible and back onto the street. Thankfully, we came across no cops this night. But we get back to the Jewel and we hop in the whips. Stan drives his whip, Michael rides with Andre, and I rode with Ashton. Now I definitely shouldn't have let this man drive, but I steered for him basically. I was pretty much straight in this regard, and he wasn't as bad as I thought when it came to keeping it stable. But thankfully Marcel's place is only like a few minutes from where we were, and we get there easy. So we pull up, and I'm feeling pretty right. I only had a little bit of alcohol, and it was a decent feeling. Once we get up to Marcel's place, we all say what up, and he hands us some drinks. I would only sip on a couple beers the rest of the night, and something I noticed is I would drink my shit slow as hell, which is much more favorable in my experience to where it doesn't get too heavy. Marcel's girlfriend Sophie was also here, which it was pretty funny actually, because Ashton came up to her acting like he had never met her before, when we literally just hung out with him about a week ago or so. And he was like trying to guess her name and all this, and Ashton had absolutely no clue. He was just gone. Stan and I roll up another, which we were the only ones to really smoke this night. Ashton would slow down as he didn't like to get too cross-rated. And Andre finally started drinking a bit too. And we put on the tunes and started vibing. We post outside on the balcony and light up, and start chatting the fuck away. Which we would always be having some deep ass conversations about life and the state of the world. And basically what it takes to play the game and how it's all just kinda messed up. Our conversations can all vary, from things going on in our lives, to certain behaviors we exhibit and then see, comparing things to how they once were, the list goes on. But I remember Stan goofed and dropped the blunt off the balcony into some rocks, which was right where this old lady lived. But his ass just ran down there, flashlight out and all, no fucks given, grabs the blunt, it was still lit, and he takes a hit. But around 30 minutes or so of being there, Ashton starts to slump on us. I know he was telling Marcel all that was going down with him and what happened with his dad, which we're all pretty tight with each other, and he didn't want to deal with not having anywhere to go, so he has to stay the night, and of course they had no problem with it. And Ashton needed some help getting up. He started stumbling, holding onto the table outside and whatnot, so Marcel and I grab him, help him get inside, where we set him on the recliner. I remember Marcel telling me that Ashton was really messed up. We haven't seen him this drunk in a while. Ashton would end up falling asleep on the recliner, which of course we let him. But we hang for a bit, we run a few games of 2K, and Stan brought this up, or it could have been Michael. But Andre was sitting down in this clear inflatable chair that Marcel had. I'll show you guys a picture right now. But yeah, it basically looked like this shit, alright? Now I'm pretty sure Stan brought this up, but he said, what if instead of filling it with air, you put in some water instead and a few goldfish, and it will make for a good TikTok. Still have it to where you could sit on that, then just post that mug and watch that shit go viral. And if anyone actually does this shit, I'll be fucking dead. But hey, you heard it here first from your boy. But like a bunch of dumbasses, we all hop on this idea and thought it was one of the most clever and coolest things ever if we can get it to work. And Marcel starts trying to lay out a plan for us of how we could actually do it. And basically, we get to the conclusion we gotta see if we can even fill it with water first. So we put the plan into action and all gather into his bathroom and around the tub. We push all the air out and turn on the water. Long story short, basically this shit was not working the way we wanted to. The hole where you blew up, it was just way too small, and the water wasn't really going in efficiently at all. We tried filling out the tub too to try to see if we can submerge it, but again, it just wasn't working good. We just couldn't get every little last bit of air out. Maybe if you got an unused one and had a straw filter system where you could get water directly in, it could probably work out. But we didn't even think about how you could get fish in there. There's no way it would fit through that tiny ass hole. So that's a whole other problem to get around. And whether or not that shit is actually killing them, and if it's animal cruelty. Also the chance of that shit just exploding open when it's filled and you try and sit on it. I could see some dumbass shit like that happening. But basically after this little venture, we go out for another smoke. Which at the start of this, it was only Stan, Michael, and I. And Stan gets in that mood, that classic ass mood where he just starts dropping bars. And I mean bars. Years back, and when he was growing up, Stan was really into making music and rapping. Which he's super fucking good, and I'm not exaggerating by any means. He's really talented with it and loves to go off the top, especially when we get into these types of situations, getting high and drinking. But basically without even saying anything, Stan starts to rap in front of Michael and I. He put a beat on and just started dropping bars, man. It's a different type of energy when someone can just go off the top like that and it actually slaps. I remember Michael just had his jaw dropped and I was pretty much the same. Like I really felt some type of way with the verse he was dropping, just super impressed. Eventually everyone else came out and he continued to go in. But that first verse, just on another level. But basically after this, we smoke up and chill for a bit more before calling it a night. Marcel offered to give Michael and I a ride back, and Andre and Stan said peace. But we get dropped off, and I pretty much just crashed right away. Besides this, what happened the next morning was an absolute scary mess for Ashton. Like, I had a really good ass time this night, because I haven't hung out with these guys like this in a while. So it was really good vibes and refreshing. But as you can imagine, with my friend Ashton, things weren't so pretty. He told me the next day that when he got up, he immediately went to drink the bottle of Jim Beam that I had gave him, which I pretty much forgot about and didn't even care about really. He said he felt like shit, and he had been on this for a while now, just waking up and drinking so he wouldn't feel so bad. But this night, he went too far. He was straight for a couple hours I guess in the morning. He talked to Marcel a little, and was able to go and talk to his grandma about everything. And she decided to let him stay again. But when he was there just trying to relax, he ended up having a pretty bad seizure. Which, Ashton has a history of seizures, mainly due to his temporal lobe. It used to be so bad at one point that the doctor suggested performing a lobotomy and removing it. It's hard to say exactly what brought it out. We know for sure his Xanax use definitely had an impact. And the alcohol can go the same way with the withdrawals. There can be a chance of having a seizure, which is going to be a lot more likely if you have a history with it. He hadn't had one in a while at that point, but thankfully it didn't last too long and he didn't suffer any damage. He stopped drinking right after this, almost for a week, Because on top of this, he told me that his stomach was getting pretty fucked up too, that it was pretty hard physically and it would hurt to breathe sometimes. I told him he had to see a doctor of course, but I would guess he developed alcoholic gastritis based off the symptoms he told me. So yeah, Ashton was in a mess this night, but the thing is, I recognize the suffering he went through and still goes through, and it played a big role in my energy this night, realizing how much of a friend he needs, the support he needs. I will say Ashton still is in a rough spot, but he's made improvements, taking things one step at a time, and that's with all of us. This night though was like the return of an energy I hadn't felt in years. It was very empowering. But this was a little story I just wanted to share. Nothing too wild like that, but it was a good night and a good memory. It's been someone that's no one, and thanks for watching.